Good morning, children. Today I'm going to teach you Chapter 2 Alice in Wonderland, written by Lewis Carroll. The, re- the real name of Lewis Carroll is Charles Lutwidge Dodson. So it is believed that the adventure of Alice in Wonderland is inspired by a little girl named Alice Liddell, with whom Lewis Carroll spent most of his time. He is one of the most famous children's writers in the world. So please pay attention while I read and explain the chapter. One day, a young girl named Alice was sitting in a garden. Now, it was a hot summer day, and this young little girl, her name was Alice, and she was sitting in her garden. Suddenly, she saw a rabbit run past her into a rabbit's hole. Suddenly, she saw a rabbit running at a great speed into a rabbit's burrow. The rabbit was talking to itself and looking at the pocket watch to check the time. Now, this rabbit was very funny. He was speaking to himself, and this rabbit had a pocket watch too, and he was looking at the time. Alice decided to follow the rabbit, and she jumped into the hole after it. When Alice saw this speaking rabbit, so what did she do was she decided that she would follow this rabbit, and she jumped into the rabbit's burrow. Alice found herself in a long hall which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked. Now, when Alice jumped into that rabbit's hole or rabbit's burrow, she landed in a very long, large hall. Now, this hall had lamps hanging from the ceiling, and it had many doors. It had doors all around the hall, but all the doors were locked. Alice had been all the way down, one side up, the other, trying every door. She walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever going to get out. Now, when Alice entered that hall, the large big hall, she was trying to unlock all the doors. She was trying to open the door and go out. But to her surprise, all the doors were locked, and now she began to get worried and began to think how she was ever going to get out of that rabbit's hole or rabbit's burrow. Suddenly, she came upon a little three-legged table all made of solid glass. Now, suddenly, while she was in the hall thinking how she's going to get out of that hall room or from that rabbit's hole, suddenly she saw a three-legged table. Now, this three-legged table was made of glass. It was a glass table. There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, and Alice's first thought was that it might belong to one of the doors of the hall. Now, when Alice noticed that glass table, on top of that glass table, there was a tiny or small golden key. Now, when Alice saw this golden key, she thought it might belong to one of the doors that are in the hall room. Alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small, but at any rate, it would not open any of the doors. Now, alas, to her sorrow or to her pity, either the locks was too big or the key was too small. Now, that golden key could not unlock any of the doors that were there in the hall room. However, on the second time round, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. Now, however, while she was unlocking all the doors during the second attempt with the golden key, the small golden key, suddenly she saw a low curtain. She saw a low curtain, and behind that curtain there was a very small door. Now, this door was around 15 inches wide. It wasn't a very big door. It was as the size of a rat hole. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Now she tried the small little golden key in that door and was trying to unlock it, but to her delight, she was very happy because that golden key fitted and it unlocked the small little door. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage not much larger than a rat's hole. Now, when Alice unlocked that small 15 inches door, she could see that this small door leads to a narrow passage, a narrow way, and this passage was not as big as a rat's hole. The size of the passage was as big as a rat hole. She knelt down and looked up along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. Now, when she opened that door, she knelt down, she fell on her knees, and she looked through that passage. And when she looked through that passage, she had seen a very beautiful garden which she had never ever seen in her life. How she longed to get out of the dark hall and wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. Now, when she looked through that passage and that beautiful garden, she wanted to go into the garden and walk. Wander means to walk and feel the bright, vibrant colors of vibrant flowers of the garden and the cool fountains. Now, she really wanted to go out of that dark hall and enjoy the beauty of that garden and the cool fountains that she saw from that door. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. Now, the reason why she could not get her head through the doorway was because that door was around 15 inches wide. It was as big as a rat hole, and Alice was much bigger than that door. So she could not go through that door, or she could not pass that door and go into that lovely garden. Children, I'll explain the remaining chapter in the next class. Until then, thank you.